Morning. It's Wednesday, December 9th, and yesterday was Safe Harbor Day. It's not a holiday. It's not any recognizable anniversary for any kind of historical event. In years past, it was just a day on the calendar. But this year, December 8th marked the federal election safe harbor date, and with it, an effective end to the increasingly crazy, unhinged effort of President Donald Trump and his campaign and his supporters to challenge the 2020 election. In order to understand the importance of the date and its relationship to our constitutional transition of presidential power, it requires you to count backwards. Constitution requires that the presidential term ends precisely at noon on January 20th. And as we proceed toward that date, federal law provides that the Electoral College formally votes on the first Monday after the second Wednesday in December. Now this year, that'll be December 14th. Those electoral votes then must arrive in Washington, D.C. by December 23rd. Now this date dates back when it took more than a phone call or a click of a button to transmit information over long stretches. Now I'm sure we could have done this thing over the internet and sent all the members of Congress an email or something. But that's not how it works. And Congress will formally count the electoral votes on January 6th. So now let's go back to the safe harbor date. Under federal law, the state's selection of its presidential electors, that's been finalized 6 days before the formal electoral college voting date, which is this year, December 14th, is final. And you cannot change or challenge that in court or in Congress. In other words, on December 8th, the determinations of the states cannot effectively be challenged by Trump or by his so-called elite strike force. That's a legal term invented by Rudy Giuliani. And we know how well they've done with their lawsuits and everything. They haven't won one yet, and I think it's all over for them. We could say Kaddish for those lawsuits. So the states are really not required to finalize their electoral votes by the safe harbor date. But if they do, those determinations are protected by federal law. You would think at this point, Trump's doomed lawsuits would end. And they should end. It should have ended as soon as it became clear that President-elect Biden had won the election. But Giuliani and the rest of Trump's elite strike force, as he called it, have fired off thoughtless lawsuits utterly without regard to the facts and the law. The interesting thing is every time an attorney shows up in court with one of these things, they can't lie in court. Whatever they do outside of court is okay, but they can't lie in court. So every time they're asked, where's the evidence, they hem and haw and they wave some papers at the judge, and it gets thrown out. So Safe Harbor Day is a very important date because if the states have certified by Safe Harbor date, that's it. It's conclusive. And you would expect that Giuliani and the elite strike force would start respecting the law at this point. But we haven't seen that happen. Of course, Giuliani is now in the hospital with COVID-19. It's pretty amazing. I can't imagine how a guy got COVID-19. I mean, he should have been well protected. But I don't even recall seeing him in a mask. And of course, hanging out in the White House, which is like the center for COVID-19. It's like COVID-19 hangs out in the White House, just waiting for a sucker. And Giuliani's one of those suckers. So I guess everybody was hoping that safe harbor date would effectively extinguish any hope of even the last remaining denialists. But when history looks at this, they will recognize an utter disaster, legally and otherwise. This elite strike force, as they call themselves, has filed so many lawsuits, and they have been so bad and so inept that it is extremely difficult to figure out which one of them was the worst. But there was a federal court judge who put the nail on the head, who hit the nail on the head. He characterized one of Giuliani's lawsuits as Frankenstein's monster. It's good that we have come to the end of these lawsuits. It's good for anybody that cares about our constitutional process and about having a smooth transition of power and having a rule of law. One might even think it might be good for Trump and Giuliani and the rest of those who continue to have visions of overturning the 2020 election. Their vision should now disappear into the dust. Or maybe these people will remember it forever, and they will never get over the fact that they believed they were screwed. And I have heard all the tales of bundles of ballots hidden in the closet, in suitcases, and people taking them home with them and changing them, and all kinds of nonsense. And I think what put the nail in the coffin is Bill Barr said there was nothing wrong with the election. And he will probably resign before his term is up, before Biden takes over. And firing Chris Krebs and those things. So anybody that has the fantasy that this was a rigged election is a sorry individual in my mind. And I don't know how they're ever going to sleep again if they believe that. So realistically, this election is formally over as of Safe Harbor Day, and is probably legally over as well. I hope the nonsense stops and we can get on with the transition. So that's it for today, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.